Susan Yaffe from Westdale. I actually left Hamilton in 1973 and made my way to Toronto, where I lived for several years. And in 1981, I came to Israel. So I've been here for a long time. I came when I was about 24, 25 years old. I had already gone to school and I had a profession. I was a medical technologist in a field called nuclear medicine, which was just starting here in Israel, and I got a job right away at Hadassah, and I've been there ever since. I did a career change about 23 years ago, and now I'm a technologist in MRI, in charge of the department there in Hadassah. And that's it. Over here is my husband David, and David and I have been married for 15 years. And we have one wonderful son named Matanel, who will be here shortly. We just celebrated his bar mitzvah a few months ago. And we've been living in Beit Shemesh just about 14 years. We live in an area called Migdal Hamayim, which probably doesn't sound familiar to anyone because it's not an English-speaking area, but rather it's mixed. It's religious, non-religious. We hear a lot of Russian in the street, and there's about 10 English-speaking families in the neighborhood. We chose this neighborhood because we wanted to feel, even though Beit Shemesh is thought of as a very Anglo-Saxon city, we wanted to feel more Israeli, since when we moved here we had both been living here for quite a few years.
Is your husband Israeli?
No, my husband is from Brazil. David has been here how many years? 28 years?
Next week, 28.
Next week he will be here 28 years. He comes from a family that was English speaking in Brazil, so that's our common language at home, and our son speaks English as well. As I think that you'll find with a lot of Anglo families that they try and keep the English at home, and the kids seem to do better in their studies at school having English as a mother tongue anyway. So it's kind of like having free lessons. They benefit from it. My mother still lives in Hamilton. She lives in Westdale, in the house where I was born into.
Who's your mother?
My mother's Shirley Yaffe. She's 85 years old, and thank God she's doing very well. She lives on her own. The community has aged a lot, or moved away, or moved to Israel. The community, I mean the old timers in Hamilton, so it's a little bit lonely. But thank God she does okay on her own. We try and go to visit, or I try and go to visit in Hamilton about once a year, and we try and have her come here also for an extended visit about once a year. And she's definitely part of our life and part of our community. Everyone knows Susan's mother, and she fits right in here also.
So let me backtrack a bit.
Okay.
Why did you make Aliyah?
So that's a very important question. I lived in a world in Toronto where everybody kind of knew everybody else, and because I'm Orthodox, so all the people my age knew everybody else, and my girlfriends were all starting to get married or moved to New York, and I really didn't like New York. I didn't like the idea of going there. And I had been to Israel once in 1976 for summer with a college group, and I loved it here. I came back again in 1978 to work in a hospital for about a month, and I just felt at home here, and I felt that living in Canada there was something missing from my life, and so I decided that I would come here. Now I have to say, it sounds like kind of something very exotic for a single person to pick up and leave, but I had just about as many friends here in Israel as I did in Canada. That if you will ask everyone in the room the same question, I think almost everybody will answer exactly the same way. I did not grow up in an Orthodox home. I grew up in a very traditional home, and we belonged to the Adas Israel. And it just kind of gradually worked its way in. I felt more comfortable in the Orthodox world, and then...
Did you go to the Hamilton Hebrew Academy?
No, I didn't, because I was too old. It started a year when I was going to the 2nd grade. They were starting the 1st grade, and so I didn't.
So what's the connection then between being Jewish in Hamilton, belonging to the Adas, becoming Orthodox, moving to Israel? Like, how does that work?
It's all connected.
Okay, so when I was around 12, I guess, I was supposed to be having my bat mitzvah, and there was no bat mitzvah in Adas Israel because that was sacrilegious. So we were going to have this thing called a bat Torah. And actually, in the Adas Israel, there was a youth rabbi at the time whose name is Rabbi Chaim Sakowitz, who now lives in Jerusalem. And he and his wife were this young couple, very vibrant. They came in and they to Hamilton, and there was maybe a few kids that were religious or whatever, but they started a youth group. They didn't start a youth group. They attached onto an international youth group called NCSY. Mm-hmm. And we started going to NCSY, and we would have conventions or whatever. And I learned more about Judaism, and it was at our shul anyway, so, and I got very involved in it. And so somewhere in the middle of high school, I decided that I wanted to be Shomer Shabbat. I wanted to be religious. And there was a few other kids that at the same time did it. One of them was Harold Rapp's brother Marvin, also became religious at the time. And whatever, at the same time, somewhere out there, there were kids that were going to the Hamilton Hebrew Academy and also learning more about Judaism and also bringing their families in. But as I said, it wasn't so difficult for me because my family was very traditional. You know, we kept kosher or whatever. I had a grandmother that was religious also. And that was it. The only thing that I was lacking was this education that everyone else got at the academy, or when the kids got older, they went away to Toronto to school, and I didn't have that. So we used to learn in the afternoons with different rabbis that had lived in Hamilton. And when I went to Toronto afterwards for school, and I worked there for a few years, I also used to study all the time. And actually, Yvette, I have to tell you this, that I always felt very proud. Remember we used to go to this shiur together in Jerusalem? Remember we went a couple of times, we went as a group, because Marvin didn't. Maybe. I don't remember who it was. I just remember that you said that your husband didn't want to go with you. He asked me if I would come with you, and I said, sure. And so we went.
Okay.
And I was always so proud that I always managed to get up to a level in Judaism that I could sit and learn with someone, you, because I consider you very bright. So, so that's it, and that's it. And like the Israel part, I guess everybody also say the same thing, I think, is that it's kind of like a bug that bites you. And you can't, it's in your heart, in your soul, and you can't get rid of it. And I just felt that, you said the same thing, I just felt that when I was in Canada, I felt ill, not ill physically, I just felt like something was missing from me. And even when I would go, you know, when I was single, I lived here as a single adult for 16 years. And every time I would go to Canada, you know, I'd be happy to go and visit my family and my friends, my parents, whatever. But when I came back here, I always felt like I was coming home. And even though I also came here with no family whatsoever. And like I said, I had a lot of good friends, but you know, it wasn't the same. Some of them are here still today. We've been here together 30 years, and some of them are not here. Some of them went back and left.